All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Liberty Lately. I'm Dexter Henry alongside New York Post women's sports reporter Madeline Kenney. And the Liberty's quest to defend their title, it is officially over. They had a 79-73 loss to the Phoenix Mercury in Game 3 of their first-round series. That ends their season. It's a disappointing finish for a team that entered 2025 with championship expectations. So, on this episode, Maddie and I, we're going to break it all down. We're going to look at where things went wrong, what this season taught us about the Liberty, the future of head coach Sandy Brondello, and what moves could be on the horizon this offseason. But y'all know the routine. It was hashtag bring Maddie home. Maddie is now home. Maddie, how you doing?
I'm good. It's been nice. I took like a 3-hour nap today. It's been great.
Oh, nap. I know nothing about that lately. I don't know anything about naps lately. Okay, got a nap. You got back home. You've been traveling a lot, and hopefully won't have to travel for a while, but we will see. Maddie, let's start big picture here with the Liberty. How do you sum up this Liberty season that began with championship aspirations but ended with a first-round exit to Phoenix? How do we sum up this season?
Yeah, I mean, you started with so much potential. Adding Natasha Cloud, you're getting a defensive-minded point guard, be able to play, be a ball handler alongside Sabrina, and things were looking really bright, even though they lost Benijah with a season-ending knee surgery that she had in the spring. So it seemed like they had all the pieces to be able to make a nice deep run again. They looked like a formidable defending championship team on paper, but when and started the season even 9-0, franchise best start to a season. But things started to fall apart when injuries started to happen. She had a knee issue that bothered her all season from literally the third game on. You had JJ that missed a month with an ankle injury. Breanna Stewart missed a month. Sabrina, she missed a game with a neck issue that hampered her for a week or so afterwards. She missed a part of the final stretch of the season because of a toe injury. You had Natasha Cloud break her nose, Izzy Harrison, concussion. I mean, the list goes. Kennedy Burke had a calf strain. I mean, the list goes on and on. And part of the thing that's hard when you have these injuries that aren't necessarily season-ending injuries is that you kind of just plug holes and wait for them to get back. And by doing that, you can't totally change gears or change the scheme or whatever because you're waiting for them to return. And so Liberty were waiting for everyone to get healthy. They finally got healthy, but it was just a little too late. They didn't have enough time to build that chemistry that they needed. Stewie was playing on a sprained MCL in the last two games of this series, went off, scored all 14 points in the fourth quarter, all of Liberty's points in that quarter, I should say, and it just wasn't enough in the end. And so now they're heading into the season. They're going on vacation earlier than anticipated, heading into a season of uncertainty. There's uncertainty looming regarding whether or not Sandy Brondello will be back. There's questions about the roster. Everyone is a free agent. The CBA negotiations are looming over this offseason. There's two expansion drafts, which obviously could change things as well. So there's a lot of unknowns at this moment.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns. Why it's going to be really tough for us to talk about the offseason. We will a little bit, but there's just so much that we don't know. You mentioned a lot there, Maddie, including the injuries that we saw with this team. But we also saw them slip or drop off in multiple areas this season. I think most notable for me, they went from the best defensive rebounding team in 2024 to ninth in the W in 2025. How much did that slippage, along with dropping off in areas, we could talk about points in the paint, fast break points, points off turnovers, how much did that have to do with them being knocked out so early of the playoffs?
I mean, I think it was a big part. I mean, it was a story. They out rebounded the Mercury in the first two games, if I remember correctly. But they just were allowing way too many second chance opportunities. They were turning the ball over a lot, and all of those things kind of just added up and mounted to more and more issues. And so that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, that was a huge problem. Rebounding was talked all season. Defense, trying to get like a chemistry and identity was talked about, and that was hard to do when you had so many people in and out of lineups. You had Emma Mieseman join midseason, and even though she's a great role player and was a good fit for the team, it just takes time to build that, trust and to have a full understanding of what the team was doing. And so I think, there was a lot of issues, and a lot of it came down to player availability and lack thereof. And you can even point at like the rebounding was tied to that, the turnovers were tied to that. A lot of their issues were just tied to that.
Yeah, No doubt about that. Should we look at this team, because you just mentioned some of one of the pieces, Emma Meesman coming in mid-season. Should we look at this team as having an identity shift this year? Because Kayla Thornton lost her to the expansion draft, but Nigel Hamilton, who you mentioned earlier, injury. Then you have Natasha Cloud, T. Cloud, and Emma Meesman. They were the key new additions, or big new additions, I should say, to this roster. How did that roster shake up in those new players coming in, some players going out? How did that affect this team's style and chemistry this season? Do you feel like that had an effect at all?
I mean, I think so, yeah. The Liberty wanted to play way more of a five out offensive scheme, and they had the shooters to do it. And a lot of the issues in the first round, they were missing shots that they normally make. I mean, KB was off the entire season or the entire postseason. She was shooting over 40% from deep and then couldn't buy a shot when it came to when they needed her most to in the playoffs. Same with Leo, Fibich in some degree, Emma Miesemann. I mean, she was outstanding for them during the regular season and again, just kind of laid an egg at times during the playoffs. And so I think just, yeah, the lack of continuity, the lack of time of being able to actually play together and practice together. I mean, I've talked to several GMs throughout the regular season about the lack of practice availability that teams have. And they say that, like, the product is good right now, but just think of how good it could be if they could actually practice and have, significant time of playing together. But that's just kind of the life of playing in the WNBA.
No, that is the life playing in the W. We got to move over to the head coach, which I know a lot of fans want to hear about and talk about. And Sandy Brondello, she took some criticism this season for her rotation choices, game management, and not just in the season, but in the series against the Mercury. How fair do you think that criticism is of Sandy in terms of her game management and rotation choices that we've seen from her?
Yeah, I mean, look, I talked to Sandy throughout the season about the criticism that she was facing, and she knew that she wasn't immune to, people questioning her substitution pattern, her rotation. One of the bigger storylines down the stretch was the minutes that Talbot was getting over Rebecca Gardner, and even when things were going tough in the first round, maybe she should have dipped into the bench a little bit more. Those are all fair questions. They're all things that you can, point to and everything. I asked Breanna Stewart in the post-game press conference because Liberty aren't doing exit interviews. This was their last opportunity to ask these questions before they go off to wherever they're going to go off throughout the offseason. And I asked her about what her response is to people who question whether Sandy should be back to coach next season. And Breanna Stewart, Natasha Cloud, every single player I talked to said that they have Sandy's back and they think that Sandy should be back next season, and that a lot of the issues that the team had this season were not Sandy's doing. There was multi layers to all of this. And so I think, if you're asking my opinion on the Sandy situation, I think you run it back for one more year. Hope that you'll have better luck in terms of just injuries and player availability. You have Benijah Hamilton coming back from injury, most likely. We don't know what the expansion drafts are going to bring because we haven't seen that. That's all tied to the CBA, obviously. But you're bringing back hopefully your core players. I mean, Stewie and Sabrina said they plan to be back, and JJ wants to run it back. Leo's on a rookie contract. Niara's on a rookie contract, and so because of all this, I think she deserves, after being only a year removed from winning the franchise its first championship, she deserves one more year.
So I found it interesting that you used that word there, deserves, Maddie, and I'm glad you also explained what you asked after the game and how you asked it after the game and why you had to ask it after the game because of no exit interviews about Sandy and how the players felt about that. What did you make, in terms of Sandy, what did you make of her coaching this season? And you said you think she deserves to return as head coach at Liberty, but we know this covering sports for as long as we have. Sometimes deserve has nothing to do with it, right? And sometimes front offices make different decisions. We saw this with the Knicks this year with Tom Thibodeau. A lot of people felt that he deserved to come back, he deserved to return, and he did not. Do you think that the organization views it the same way with the work she's done with this franchise over the last couple of years and will say, hey, she does deserve to return as coach?
I mean, we'll find out in a few days how they feel about it. But look, I'll just say that, everyone knows in coaching, it's one of those positions, it's a cliche in sports now that you're hired to get fired, and that's the reality. And even I talked to Sandy after the game a little bit about it briefly. And you know what? She said that she's got big shoulders. She'll stand on it. It is what it is. And Sandy's such a good coach and has such a good reputation in the league. You've never really heard a player speak badly about their experience playing for her, that she wouldn't be unemployed for long. My other question when people question about, whether Sandy should be back is who are you going to replace her with? Because the Storm just fired their head coach. There's that vacancy. Portland and Toronto are also on the hunt for head coaches. So if this is going to happen, it probably needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, sooner rather than later. I'd like to say for the record, I think Sandy should come back for all the reasons you mentioned, which I'm going to get into next with the core. The core is what it is with this team. They still got some young players. There still is a lot, as we're all saying. We don't know what could happen, but I think she should be back. But look, as I said before, we also understand deserve sometimes has nothing to do with it at all whatsoever. We'll find out how the organization feels, but I will be on the record saying I think she should come back as well. Now, looking ahead, Maddie, do you expect the core of this team, and I'll call this JJ, Stewie, and Sab, do you expect the core to remain intact, or do you see potential changes coming to that core?
Yeah, I asked that question post game too to all the players about what they, whether they want to come back or their feeling on everything. And Breanna didn't, even in the moment, just a few moments removed from heartbreak, did not skip a beat in saying that she's planning on coming back. Sabrina, she said that, yeah, she plans to come back, but she also knows that the rosters look different every single year. And it's not going to be the same exact roster as this year, even though that, they've all talked about how great the chemistry has been and how much they've enjoyed playing with one another. And so I anticipate Breanna being back and Sabrina being back. I know Sabrina told me like during the regular season that she wants to be a Liberty for life. I think that she'll at least be in New York as long as Breanna Stewart's in New York. And I wouldn't be surprised if Stewie, with her whole brand of Stew York, retires as a Liberty player. Um, we're still a long way from that happening. I'm not trying to
Right.
jump ahead, but I feel very comfortable based off of everything that she said and stuff like that, that's not out of the total realm of possibilities. As for JJ, I think, she wants to run it back. And I think that JJ should come back. I like her game. I think unfortunately because of the offense that they were playing in, she a lot of times is on the perimeter and she has a really trusty three-point stroke, so or shooter. She's a good three-point shooter, so I'm not mad at her being on the perimeter necessarily, but there were times that you would want to see her get more paint touches or more post up opportunities, especially with her being your center and so I do anticipate that she'll be back as well, but it's also free agency. I've been talking to a bunch of people around the league and they all say that nobody really knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what the CBA is going to look like. Nobody knows what the salary cap is going to be, roster, salaries, all that. So it's kind of you can say all this stuff now, but it wouldn't be surprising if some shakeup happens to some degree.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It could be a very wild free agency whenever we get there. Who knows when that's going to come? Whenever we get there, it could be very wild. We saw a lot of ladies sign one-year deals last year, so there's a lot of people that will be on one-year deals in the W this year. Now, Maddie, if there is a move to be made, because some people and some fans are going to say, okay, they need to make a change. They need to do something to get back to the mountaintop. Where do you think the biggest need is for this team? Is it front court depth? Is it wing defense? Is it shooting? Like, if there was a move to be made, what do you think the Liberty should do?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely front court depth is one of those areas that should look to shore up. I mean, they were relying on Niara to be the backup center, and unfortunately, she was just so she just had that knee issue all season that kept her out. And I talked to a few people about JJ, and she kind of struggled to score toward the end throughout the series and then at the end of the season. And a lot of people that I talked to just said that was her running out of gas just from being exhausted and fatigued from the reality of the situation that they didn't really have a true center to back her up. And, they can play small lineups with Stewie at the five and Emma Mieseman definitely helped with the front court. It'll be interesting to see whether or not she plans to come back to the WNBA or to Liberty in particular. I know that she enjoyed her time in New York. But Again, not sure what her situation or decision will end up being. But yeah, I think front court depth is one of those concerns I have. I think also just having can never have too much guard depth as well. Shooters are also a luxury in this league at times. So yeah, I think that there also needs to be an understanding and a reliance on the bench in certain situations throughout the regular season because you don't want your starters to get into the playoffs and just be already gassed from having to carry a heavy load in the way that the Liberty did because they just were trying to fight for playoff seeding toward the end of the season.
Uh-oh, you sound like the minutes police for another fan base that I do a show with. You sound like that there. But you're right. You're right. I mean, you can't have players gas by the time you get to the playoffs. I think that's fair. And so having depth, which is something before the season we touted about this Liberty team, right? Depth is only as good as you think it is until you don't have it. So we'll see how it goes. Last thing for me, I guess, Maddie, is what kind of pressure is there on Jonathan Kolb, general manager of the New York Liberty? Is there pressure on him to retool this roster, especially given the title window that they're in right now? Do you look at this as pressure on Jonathan Kolb?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously they're in the winning business and they didn't win enough this season. And so there is pressure on him in the sense of being able to reconstruct this roster and make sure that it is a strong one to that you're building around Breanna Stewart and Sabrina, who can very well take you to a championship. And they had really good pieces around them this season. It's just unfortunately because of the injuries and the inconsistent lineups and the changing rotation and all of that stuff. It wasn't their year. And so I think that he has his work cut out for him. He's going to be spending the next couple of days, weeks, months grappling over what this team needs. It'll be really interesting to see how everything plays out, considering that they can't do the expansion drafts until they have a CBA done, and you can't do free agency until that expansion draft is done. And then you also have a college draft too, and this year's college draft is stacked. So it'll be a pretty interesting WNBA offseason, but we're still in playoffs. It's just the Liberty aren't in the playoffs. So
I know.
there's still time to enjoy WNBA basketball before the NBA really starts going.
Yeah, it feels weird for the Liberty to not be here, at least in the semifinal round, but we'll see how it all shakes out. It's going to be an eventual offseason. Maddie just laid out all the things that have to come. So as those things come, we'll definitely bring you more episodes of Liberty Lately when we have news on that before the expansion drafts, CBA, all that other stuff. But Maddie, got to say, we did this halfway through the season starting. It's been a fun first season recording Liberty Lately. We got a lot more to go here with it. I appreciate you. Glad you were back home safe. And we'll do this again pretty soon. We'll have more episodes of Liberty Lately coming for you. I'm just glad you're back home and rested and you don't have to get any more flights soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
There we go. That's Madeline Kenney. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on Liberty Lately.